Welcome to JK Tells a Story, where real-life dramas unfold. Sit back and enjoy today's tale. My name is Marcus Sullivan, and I work in the biomedical equipment department at Cleveland Clinic. I'm about 5 feet 10 inches and weigh 180 pounds. I have dark brown hair and blue eyes, and I stay in decent shape thanks to regular workouts and running. According to all my friends, I should have no trouble with women, but I rarely go on dates. It's not that I'm not interested in women or that they aren't interested in me. It's just that I have to be very careful. The first time I was lucky, and although there were suspicions, everything was attributed to a series of coincidences, so I wasn't charged with anything. But I'm sure the police are still watching me now, almost 5 years later, mostly because what happened was so damn weird and because they still don't believe it. A couple of weeks ago, I was upgrading a computer workstation in the administrative offices on the 5th floor of our building. I tested the old computer and it seemed to work fine. The display was clear, programs ran smoothly, and text was easy to read. I found absolutely nothing wrong with the system, so I ran it through a complete diagnostic to check memory, processors, and everything else I could think of. In the end, I marked the computer as functional and replaced it anyway with an upgraded model that was almost identical. The current user of this workstation questioned me while I was working. Okay, you know that my computer is fine. Why did you change it at all? If you were just going to replace it, why not just unplug it, plug in a replacement, and then go on your way? You could be out of here in 5 minutes. She told me, "Listen, miss." I paused while I searched for my work order to find her name. "This is Miss," she said. "I mean, if you don't look at me, you might miss something that could be really good. And the last name is Foster. The first name you should use is Rebecca. Put it all together and you get Rebecca and Foster. For my friends, Becca. For you, Lainey." I felt like I had just been treated to a version of a James Bond line. "Well, Lainey, my work order says that you requested a computer upgrade because you were having problems with your system. I checked it here to see if it was okay and found nothing, but the problem may be situational, which means you have to do certain things to make it happen, or it could simply be something that happens at a certain time. This way, I don't have to drag it to the biomedical department and test it. I can just mark it as usable and put it on the shelf when I get there. Again, I'm not trying to guess what you need. If you need a different computer, I'll give you one. I don't comment on how you process insurance claims or what you do here. So please be polite and respectful of how I do my job. I'm just trying to help you and give you the tools to do your job. At the end of the day, we all have to be one team. If you ask for a new computer and I have one, it's yours, plain and simple. Please have a nice day." "Wow, that makes a hell of a lot of sense," she said. "Maybe what they said about the biomedical department isn't entirely true. But what if I already know that there's nothing wrong with my computer? What if this was all part of a dastardly plot to drag you here so I could ask you a question? I think it must be a damn big deal for you to go through all this trouble and risk," I said. "So what is the question?" I turned and looked at her for the first time and almost fell. She was tall and slender but curved where you want your woman to be curved. She had a mane of wild red curls that flowed over her shoulders like a waterfall cascading over a cliff. Her luscious lips were stretched into a welcoming smile, and when she took off the square-framed glasses that office types had been all the rage of late, I nearly fell into her sea-green eyes. It all looked like she had been rehearsing for days. She took off her glasses and shook her head, causing all her hair to become disheveled. It looked like an advertisement for a damn shampoo. She even put one of the temples of her glasses in her mouth and bit down on it lightly so I could see how white her teeth were. I expected her next move to be opening her blouse, unbuttoning a few buttons, and then sliding toward me across the long desk like in a Van Halen video from the 80s. I was ready for David Lee Roth and Eddie Van Halen to burst into the room. Dave looking like a game show host on cocaine and Eddie playing one crazy riff after another from a hidden Marshall amp on a guitar that looked like it was assembled from spare parts and duct tape. In the dim depths of my mind, I heard music and couldn't help but think everything worked out for me. Everything worked out. Everything worked out. I fell in love with Lainey. So that's where I left off. Oh yes, she was about to ask me the big question. If I get disconnected like that again, let me know. Why don't you want to go on a date with me? She asked. It seemed to me that all the air in the room had simply evaporated. I tried to open my lungs and draw in oxygen, but it just wouldn't come in. I couldn't let it back out either. I'm not dating, I managed to squeeze out. Why? She asked, pouting her perfect lips. It just doesn't work out. It never has, and I don't think it ever will, I said. I grabbed my things and headed to her door. The office wasn't that big, but she covered the distance very quickly and slammed the door, blocking my exit. I think we would be suitable for each other. I did my homework. We're both divorced. In fact, we got divorced for the same reason. We both had partners who weren't worthy of us and cheated on us. We're both into cars, and we're both cute. She paused and looked at me again. At least you're cute. I'm not too confident in myself. As she uttered the last phrase, she ran her fingers over her body from her slender hips to her small but perfectly proportioned breasts. It was like a stripper doing her act with her clothes on. This woman should never be allowed to watch MTV or adult movies. Am I pretty, Marcus? All I could do was nod my head up and down. Well, let's talk about this some more. How about tomorrow at lunch in the cafeteria? You should have lunch sometime. When do you eat, Marcus? She asked. Took me a few seconds, which seemed more like days, to answer. At 12:45. See you then, she smiled. When I returned to the biomedical office, most of the men and women were busy, but I saw them all looking at me as I carried the computer and placed it on the shelf. I looked at the board of available tickets and was about to grab one and head back when one of my best friends, Kevin Rodriguez, grabbed my arm. Well, what do you think? He asked excitedly. What am I thinking about? I asked, looking confused. I noticed that all eyes in the biomedical office, including my longtime friend and supervisor Patricia Coleman, were on me. I went upstairs, tested the computer, and it was fine, but I swapped it anyway and then came back. If you asked me if I thought there was anything wrong with this computer, I would probably say no, but you know how it goes anyway. I'm going to fill another ticket. He looked at me as if I had just thrown away a winning lottery ticket. He then looked around the room, and everyone else was just as incredulous. He threw his hands up as if he was beside himself with rage. Patricia ran across the floor toward me and stopped me from leaving. Marcus, was anyone in the upstairs office when you changed the computer? She asked. I tilted my head to the side as if I couldn't remember or wasn't thinking about it. Then I opened my mouth to speak but quickly closed it again. I noticed that everyone in the office was waiting for me to say something, so I wanted to drag it out as long as possible. Yes, there was some woman there, I said so quietly and so quickly that no one could understand what I said. Then I reached for the doorknob. Patricia smacked my hand away from the handle. Okay, we know that we set you up and we want to know what happened. Marcus, don't be mad. We all love you and think you're a great guy who works too hard, and we just want you to be happy. Rebecca has been asking about you since she started working here 6 weeks ago. You have a lot in common. You both work on cars, and she's very beautiful. She went through a divorce just like you. You should at least try. I know she asked you out tonight, so are you going? Well, I guess your plan didn't work, I said. She didn't ask me out on a date tonight. There were a lot of gasps and exclamations when I said this. I even heard someone say, "What a waste. We have lunch tomorrow?" I smiled, and everyone in the room started laughing and cheering, as if they had just found that winning lottery ticket I had thrown away and cashed it in. Lunch the next day was modest and restrained. We sat in the cafeteria together in a back booth in a corner in the dark. We talked, walked, and ate food until we had to go back to work. Almost immediately, I realized that something was happening between us. It was as if we were two halves of a coin that were separated and became whole when they came together. The first time she took my hand, I just wanted to scream, "Wonder Twin powers activate." This feeling was so strong, and I could tell she felt it too. That lunch led to others, then several movies, dinners, and then suddenly we became a couple. We hadn't seen each other at home yet, hadn't even kissed, let alone had a night together, but everyone knew that we belonged to each other. It was almost as if we were dating in high school again. She was ready for the next step, but I wasn't sure I was. That is, I liked her very much. Perhaps I even knew that I loved her as much as you can love someone with whom you have not engaged in horizontal movement. After the divorce, I dated several women, and my car seemed to have mechanical issues whenever they rode in it. I could tell that Lainey really liked me too because she always went out of her way to touch me. She also made it clear to all the guys who tried to flirt with her that she was interested in someone else. She is a very beautiful woman, but it seemed that she wanted me, and it wasn't just nonsense. We had a lot in common. Her ex was a lazy man who stayed home and supposedly took care of their house while she worked. In fact, he took care of their neighbors' wives. They had a messy divorce that left her supporting him for 2 years or until he found a job and could take care of himself. The idiot lasted all of 2 years and then got a job where he made more money than her. Another thing we had in common was cars. Very often, friends who want to interest a guy in a woman tell him that she is interested in the same things that he is, so they seem to have something in common. For example, if a guy likes football, they tell him, "Oh, she loves football," although in fact she cannot distinguish a football from a hockey puck. She usually shows up at his house wearing a baseball jersey and holding a hockey stick, ready to show off her amazing knowledge of the NFL. But if a woman is attractive enough, we'll put up with it. 3 years later you're married, and she won't even let you watch football, let alone watch it with you. But Lainey was different. She was real. This woman drove an absolutely gorgeous orange 1970 Chevelle SS with black racing stripes. She upgraded the car with disc brakes and modern wheels and tires for more control and better traction. Engine modifications allowed this beast to produce over 400 horsepower. This was a car not to be trifled with, and she handled it well. I knew it was time to take a relationship to the next level when she brought up a couple of questions that obviously bothered her. "Marcus, don't you think it's time?" she asked. She shook her hair at me and pouted her lips the way she knew how. "It dawned on me we don't need to rush anywhere, Lainey," I said. "I think you're the only one, but we have all the time in the world." "Well, you know," she laughed, looking at me. "I've always been a little shy, Marcus. I'm not talking about intimacy. We'll get to it this weekend whether you like it or not. I don't look forward to it anymore. You've sent me home excited too many times." But that's not what I was talking about. I was still trying to get over my shock at her frank statement that I had sent her home excited. Things like this do wonders for the fragile male ego, but I was still wondering what the hell she was talking about, so I asked her, "Well, honey," she said, "you saw my car, rode in it, drove it, you even worked on my car. Don't you think it's time for me to see that famous Challenger of yours that I've heard so much about from everyone?" My blood ran cold, and an ominous ringing filled my ears. This could be the end of my relationship with Lainey, and I really liked her. But I knew it had to happen one way or another. "Okay," I said tremblingly. "I'll wash it on Saturday afternoon as usual. Why don't you come over? We'll wash her and then go for a drive somewhere. Maybe have dinner and a movie. And I plan to stay tonight. Don't forget that." She grinned. I just nodded my head woodenly because, as much as I fantasized about a night with Lainey, I was damn sure we would never go that far. Saturday arrived as it always does, and around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Lainey showed up at my house. She had an overnight bag and a clothes carrier with her. She clearly had no idea what could happen. My eyes widened when I saw that she was wearing shorts, and her t-shirt rode up above her waist, showing off a tiny piercing in her belly button on her surprisingly toned tummy. Her legs were covered with a golden tan and seemed endless. "If you're so interested in my legs, why haven't you ever tried to get between them?" She laughed, catching my gaze. "I guess I wanted to enjoy the time we had and get to know you as much as I could during this time," I said. "Why are you talking like we're going to break up or something, Marcus?" she asked. Did you know that I turned down dates with other guys in order to spend time with you? I really like you a lot, so you have nothing to worry about. She then kissed me, and I have to admit I was a little nervous kissing her in front of my house. I had kissed her many times before, so it wasn't about the kiss, and I didn't care at all whether my neighbors or friends saw us. The real danger was that she was getting close to me, so close to my house. My heart was beating so loudly that I was sure Rebecca could hear it. A thin trickle of sweat ran down my spine from a horror of what might happen. This is Rebecca, the one I call Lainey. She's very sweet and loves cars, I said very loudly, though I'm not sure why. Lainey looked at me as if I was a little touched. I took her hand and led her into my house. She looked around and smiled the whole time. It was very difficult for me not to smile too. She immediately pulled me onto the sofa and pressed her lips to mine again. We sat and kissed for about 10 minutes, and my hands had already begun to roam over her body when suddenly she jumped up like a jack-in-the-box. Okay, let's go look at this car before we start it and have time to wash it or cook dinner, she said. Are you sure you want to see her now? I asked nervously. She nodded seriously. All I hear from everyone is about your car. Before I met you, whenever people found out I liked muscle cars, everyone in the building would say, you should see Marcus's Challenger. I don't care that it's older and might be rusty. I love you, so if it's important to you and you like it, I'll like it too. Okay, I said, thinking that sooner or later this was bound to happen. The garage was attached, so we just walked out the door from the kitchen and into the garage. It was heated and had a beautiful striped floor that matched the car. I held Lainey behind me as I walked to the garage, but she wouldn't let up. She jumped out of my shadow and examined the car. Oh my God, she's beautiful, she screamed as if she had just seen a new supermodel. She began to walk around the car to inspect it from all sides, but I quickly grabbed her arm to prevent her from walking in front of or behind the car. Is there something wrong with the other side of the car? She asked me suspiciously. Isabella, this is Rebecca. I already told you about her. She is very sweet, and I have very strong feelings for her. I would be very upset if anything happened to her, I said loudly to my car. Lainey looked at me like I was a little out of my mind. I opened the garage door to let in some fresh air. Maybe I should back it out so we can wash it easier, Lainey asked. I'll do it, I said. I noticed Rebecca looking at me with amusement. So you love me, but you don't trust me with your car? She asked. Well, first you two should get to know each other better, I said as I approached the car. I smiled again. It's funny that I've had the car for almost 5 years now, but I still smile every time I see it. A 2015 Dodge Challenger R/T with a shaker hood and chrome Flowmaster dual exhaust. The car was stone gray with black racing stripes. I had custom chrome grills in high and low positions that matched each other. I installed a front chin spoiler to improve aerodynamics and provide additional cooling to the engine bay, a rear diffuser, and rear blackout panels. The rotors were cross-drilled and slotted all around, and the very large calipers were painted red to match the accent color. Rebecca was still shaking her head as I prepared to get into the car. When I approached the car, I used my key fob to unlock the doors. I had left the windows cracked open from working on it earlier in the week, and the engine started normally when I turned the key. Rebecca didn't show much reaction, but she commented on the beauty of the exhaust note the Flowmasters were giving off. I moved the car far enough out of the garage so we could wash it. Hey, open my side, she said. Isabella, I hissed under my breath, using the car's name like a prayer. I knew this was an important step. The passenger side door unlocked when I pressed the button on the key fob, and the window was already down from my earlier work. Rebecca looked at me smiling. I noticed that you have a remote start system, but the automatic window feature is pretty cool, she asked. Well, something like that, I said. Smart key technology. She tilted the front seat forward and began very carefully cleaning the leather on her side of the back seat while I did the same on mine. We used regular armor all on those surfaces in the back that weren't leather and vacuumed the carpet. As Rebecca climbed out and prepared to start in the front, the passenger seat moved back into place normally. She smiled and gently patted the side of the car. I remembered with horror how that same seat had malfunctioned with a woman I had dated about 2 years earlier, and she had nearly been injured. She had to see a chiropractor for weeks after that incident. I won't bore you with what goes into washing my car, but after 2 hours we were done. Nothing terrible happened, and I began to relax a little. We went into the house and kissed a little before Rebecca pulled away from me and said, "Stop teasing me. At this rate, we'll never make it to dinner, and you're already trying to get your dessert." She kissed me again and went to the bathroom to change clothes. "We'll take your car to the restaurant," she shouted through the door. "I'll drive," she added. The sudden shock made me freeze in place. Rebecca was alive and unharmed, but how would my temperamental car behave with her driving? "Relax, Daddy. I won't hurt your baby," she said, leaving the bathroom. I wasn't actually worried about her hurting the car. I was worried about the car's quirky electrical system acting up. But Rebecca looked so good coming out of the bathroom in her little black dress that I just couldn't say no to her. I will be as gentle as if she were my own. Besides, we get along great anyway. I feel like we're old friends. She smiled at me when she said this, and I just looked in a nearby drawer and gave her the car keys. We locked the house and walked to the car hand in hand. I walked to the driver's side, and I unlocked the car with the key fob as we approached. "Hey, I have the keys. How did you do it?" Rebecca asked, puzzled. "Is this some kind of proximity sensor?" "Yeah, something like that," I said, showing her the remote. Modern technology. I opened the door for her, and she sat in the driver's seat, pressing herself against the soft leather. "Holy crap, this seat feels like it's molding itself to my back," she said excitedly. "This is very good, very comfortable. It feels like I'm wearing the car rather than sitting in it." "Yes, those are good seats," I said. She turned the ignition key, but nothing happened. "Do you have a short circuit in the ignition system?" she asked. "Isabella," I said, addressing the car directly, "let's not give her a hard time. Maybe she didn't turn the key all the way. Let me try again." She simply reached for the key again, and the powerful V8 started up and came to life. The whole machine vibrated with force. Rebecca simply smiled, leaned toward me, and kissed me again. "I like that sound," she said. I was in seventh heaven. I loved Rebecca, and it looked like my car was behaving normally with her. This in itself felt like a miracle. My car had never even tolerated anyone else driving it before, let alone cooperated this well. We had a nice dinner and were on our way home when tragedy struck. Rebecca looked at me and our eyes met. I think we got lost in the moment, and she took her eyes off the road for a moment. Before we knew it, we were in trouble. Everything around us began to move in slow motion. We had no way of avoiding the semi-trailer, and Rebecca seemed frozen behind the wheel. The driver of the semi-trailer hit his brakes because he saw us before we saw him, but it was too late. Suddenly, Rebecca's training from defensive driving courses kicked in, and she yanked the steering wheel sharply to the right. My car spun so quickly that it almost stood on 2 wheels. We missed the truck by millimeters and no one was hurt. We stopped on the side of the road and watched further traffic for the next few minutes, our hearts beating too fast. The only sound was the big V8 idling in the background. Rebecca's eyes were as big as saucers. "We should be dead," she said, "and it would be my fault. I took my mind off the road, but we didn't die. It wasn't even an accident. No harm done, nothing bad. You are an excellent driver. You got us out of this situation and saved us all." "That's the thing, Marcus," she said, looking at me strangely. My reflexes have never been that good before. It was like my body just knew what to do. If it were up to my normal driving skills, we'd all be scattered on the road right now. It was very strange, as if something helped me react faster. She looked at my face as if expecting me to say something, to explain something, but all she heard was the rumble of the big V8. She put the car in gear and drove us home. The rest of the way, she didn't talk, didn't hold my hand, and didn't try to kiss me at all. When we pulled up to my house, she pulled into the garage, got out and patted my car on the hood. After thinking for a moment, she kissed the hood and said, "Good night and thank you." I closed the garage door and we went into the house. I felt that something had changed. I chalked it up to the near miss. I took off my jacket and tie and sat down on the sofa next to her. I knew in my heart that there would be no intimacy that night. "Would you like a glass of wine or beer?" I suggested. "How about you tell me the truth?" she said. "I always tell you the truth," I said. "I never lied to you about anything." "There's a big difference between not lying and telling the truth," she told me. I could tell from the look in her eyes that she was up to something. "I've been wondering all day why the hell you named your car after some character. But that's not entirely true, is it? Isabella isn't named after Twilight's Bella Swan, is she? This machine is not just voice-controlled, is it?" she asked, looking straight at me that I shrugged and shook my head. "Isabella is short for..." "What exactly? As in Stephen King's book Christine, isn't it?" I nodded my head. Rebecca grabbed my hand and wrapped her arms around me. I could feel the goosebumps on her skin, and she was shivering, not just from the cool evening breeze. I took a blanket out of the closet, and we made ourselves comfortable on my couch. "I'll tell you the whole story," I said. 5 years ago, I got married. I thought, like most people, that I had a good marriage. Amber and I were together for about 8 years. We both had great jobs and were quite happy. We didn't have children, but that was a blessing in disguise. We met in college and I just couldn't figure us out. We weren't right for each other. I was a nerd, plain and simple. She was a cheerleader and the most beautiful girl on campus. So many guys were chasing her that you had to make an appointment to ask her out and only get rejected. It was a complete coincidence that we met at all. To say she was out of my league would be a gross understatement. If my league exploded, none of the fragments would reach her. She was the quintessential American beauty. Blonde hair, blue eyes, huge chest, long legs, the whole 9 yards. Plus, her roommate Jennifer was in my honors English class, and we were working on a paper together. Jennifer also did most of Amber's English and history homework. Amber had other people doing other things for her, so none of this tedious studying could interfere with her social life. Anyway, Jennifer and I were working on our English assignments when Amber came home from the beach with some guy. She threw off her covers as soon as she entered the dorm room and began to undress without even noticing my presence. Looking back, she probably did know I was there. She really enjoyed showing off her body. Her breasts were huge. Not in the ugly porn star way, but large enough to look out of place on her small body. It was almost impossible to look anywhere else. "Oh, sorry, she said, covering them and looking straight at me. I didn't expect Jennifer to have guests. She never brings anyone home. I simply turned away from her and went back to studying with Jennifer. The mood in the room somehow changed. Jennifer spent a lot of time looking at me as if she was trying to determine whether I still perceived her the same way after seeing the school princess almost without clothes. A few days later, Amber called me. Her laptop wouldn't boot, and since she heard from Jennifer that I was studying biomedical engineering, she was hoping I could help her. I told her that she would be better off taking the computer to the store where she bought it or to the computer science lab on campus. I then politely told her that I needed to get back to studying and hung up. The next day, Jennifer came to my apartment with a large bag of cookies that she had baked. I didn't understand how or why, but suddenly, in her eyes, I became special. I think it had to do with the fact that I was the first person she had ever seen who refused Amber anything. In reality, I was more than a little intimidated by Amber, but more than that, I just didn't see any possibility that she would ever pay attention to someone like me. It's like those guys who are into sports cars and dream of a Ferrari or Porsche. They know they will never be able to afford a car like that, so they buy cheap Japanese imports and add every possible part they can to it. They turn the car into the fastest and loudest Toyota Celica ever made, but deep down they know it's just not a Ferrari. More practical guys simply lower their expectations. I knew I would never have a chance with Amber, so Jennifer was fine with me. Jennifer was actually quite pretty. She was shy, slim, had nice legs, and a sweet smile. But to be honest, there were hundreds of girls just like her all over campus. However, there was only one Amber. Eventually, Jennifer and I started dating, and we started having intimate relations. We even used their dorm room sometimes, and that's where the problem started. Jennifer and I, like most bright young people, were somewhat experimental when it came to intimacy and other things. If we heard about something, we tried it. If one of us liked it, we added it to our repertoire. Jennifer and Amber talked to each other about different things as roommates, and I think our intimate life was one of them. That first year, Amber had been intimate with almost half the school. Poor Jennifer only had me. Jennifer was pretty open when it came to intimacy, and we walked out of her room one afternoon to find Amber sitting on the couch. When we walked out, I noticed that she was looking at me very strangely, but I didn't attach any importance to it. The next day, I was leaving one of my classes and noticed Amber, who as usual was talking to a group of guys at the other end of the hallway. As I passed by, she left her group and caught up with me. "Hi, Marcus," she said, smiling. "Hello," I replied. "Marcus, what's wrong with me?" she asked. I really didn't understand the question. I didn't know what the hell she was talking about, so I didn't say anything. "Why don't you like me? You've never asked me out on a date, and you don't even say anything to me other than hi and bye when you come over to have intimacy with my friend. So what's wrong with me? You're okay. We just don't know each other. We move in different circles. You're very popular, and you have tons of guys trying to get a date with you, the football team and the basketball team, all the aspiring athletes and the rich guys. What chance does someone like me have with someone like you?" I said. "Much more likely than you think," she began. "All the guys you were talking about have one thing in common. They all have one aspect of their personality or some skill that gives them confidence. This boosts their ego to such an extent that they have the courage to achieve anything. That's why guys like that think they deserve me or they want to be seen with me. I become just another achievement or another trophy. The guy I've been dating for the last 3 weeks, Derek Bradley, is the quarterback of our football team. We've been dating for 3 weeks now. I had intimate relations with him and did all sorts of things to him that I'm afraid to admit, and only today I found out that he doesn't even know what my last name is. Besides me, he has intimate relations with 2 more girls. I don't matter to him. I'm just a notch on his bedpost. When I look at you and Jennifer, I sometimes get jealous, and sometimes when I hear you in the room, I get very jealous because no one has ever done anything to me that would make me scream the way you make her. I talked to her about it, and I was just wondering why you chose her. Think about it sometime." Amber walked away, leaving me standing there with my mouth open. I was very flattered, but I didn't take it seriously. A few days later, one evening after her classes, Jennifer was crossing campus and was hit by a reckless driver who didn't slow down at all. Her femur was shattered, and both legs were badly broken. Some internal organs were also damaged. She was taken to the hospital, and immediately after surgery, she was transferred to a hospital in her home state. I was waiting for her on the porch of her house, sitting on the big porch swing they had, when her mother came out to tell me the news. I got scared and cried like a child. Mrs. Walsh, their housekeeper, took me to the hospital, and I waited there almost all night, but I was not allowed to see her. She still hadn't regained consciousness. That day, my life changed dramatically. I could barely make it to most classes. The rest of the time, I walked around in a fog. Jennifer and I, like most young people in love, considered ourselves invulnerable and didn't think at all about what might happen. Her parents not only didn't know we were in love, they didn't even know I existed. I tried to see them and introduce myself before they took her, But in their own grief and suffering, they had no time for me. Like them, I had to face my grief alone. Surprisingly, Amber visited me several times and tried to cheer me up. She often brought me food and made me eat. A couple of times, she took me on walks and let me talk about Jennifer. She never spoke, just listened to me pour out my heart for another woman. When we returned to school after the Christmas holidays, there was no word about Jennifer, and I absorbed myself in my own education. Over time, I simply stopped asking. Amber and I had entered the friendship stage. I figured she was just testing me out of loyalty to Jennifer. One evening, she just showed up at my dorm while I was trying to study and dragged me to the movies. Almost every person in the cinema was wondering the same question as me. What the hell was Amber Mitchell doing with this nerd? Most of them didn't even know my name. Over the course of the evening, several of her ex-friends or ex-boyfriends came over to talk to her, ignoring me as if I wasn't there. Of course, I didn't say anything, and when one of them sat down next to us and started trying to take her hand, I apologized and left. A couple of hours later, there was a knock on my door. I rolled over and tried to sleep, hoping she would just go away. The next moment, I realized that she was standing in my room and looking at me, clenching her fists. My roommate had let her in. "Dude, do you even realize who this is?" "This is Amber," he said as if that explained everything. I don't think he knew what her last name was. "Why the hell did you just leave?" she shouted. She seemed to be on the verge of tears, which really confused me. "Amber, there were 3 or 4 guys hanging around you, and every minute more were coming. You got all the attention you could handle. You didn't need me to interfere," I said. "I appreciate everything you've done for me, and I will tell everyone who asks that there is another side to Amber. I will tell them how caring you were and how you were there for me while I tried to get over what happened to Jennifer. But in reality, you did much more than you would expect from a roommate." I looked at my roommate as I said this. He just grinned, shrugged, and said, "Dude, she's Amber." He also didn't indicate that he was going to leave so we could talk in private. It seemed like he was just staring at her from all sides. "Earth is calling Marcus," Amber said hotly. "Get your head out of the clouds. Have you ever heard anyone talk about me and Mother Teresa in one paragraph, let alone one sentence?" She looked at me as if I was one of the slow-witted ones. "Marcus, I'm damn sorry that this happened to Jennifer. I had to find 2 more people to do my English and history homework, but that's not why I hung around you." "Amber, I don't do other people's homework," I said. "Marcus, have I ever asked you to do my homework?" she snapped. She then turned to my roommate and found him with his head bowed, staring open-mouthed at her chest. "Hey," she snapped, "since you're still here, have you ever heard me ask some guy to go on a date with me? Have you ever heard me practically beg some guy to do something with me?" He shook his head but didn't stop looking at her. "Marcus, I asked you to go to the cinema with me tonight not because I'm trying to help you forget Jennifer. I asked you because I wanted us to spend some time together. I just wanted it to be you and me, not you and me in Jennifer's ghostly presence." I thought about it, but the idea seemed unrealistic. She must have had some kind of agenda or ulterior motive that I couldn't see through. Well, there wouldn't have been room for Jennifer's ghost anyway, with all these guys that came, I said. "And it's been 2 hours since I left, so you really couldn't be that worried about me leaving." I also noticed that she wasn't wearing the same clothes she had been wearing when we first went to the movies. "Marcus, you can't blame me for these guys showing up. Some of them are friends and some I didn't even know. But you were the only one I was there with. I tried to tell some of them about it, and then the movie started, and I was so caught up in watching it. When the movie ended, I looked back to ask you how you liked it, and you weren't there. That's why I came here, to tell you that you left me. But really, I just want to know why you don't like me." She looked upset, as if there just wasn't a logical explanation for why anyone, especially a guy, wouldn't be into her. "Amber, What was the name of the movie we went to? I asked her. A blank expression appeared on her face. It was The Matrix Reloaded, I said. This is part of a trilogy. Tonight was the second episode. The film is almost 3 hours long and had not yet ended when I left a little over 2 hours ago. This means that the movie you watched so intently and asked me how much I liked it is still playing right now, but you had time not only to come here but also to change clothes and, judging by the smell, at least take a shower. I don't know what you want from me, but you should find another sucker. I grabbed one of my books from the table and walked out of the dorm, still wearing the sweatpants and t-shirt I usually slept in. I didn't even take the time to put on socks and shoes. I went down the stairs to the building's rec room and began reading the chapter assigned for the next week. When I finally got back to the dorm, my roommate was waiting for me. "Dude, why were you so rude to Amber?" he asked incredulously. "She asked me to tell you that you won't get rid of her that easily." A couple of days later, I was in the library when Emma Bailey, my classmate, came and sat at my table. She smiled shyly at me and looked at her book. As we sat there, she kept sneaking glances at me, and eventually I just asked her what was going on. "I'm just curious," she replied. "You're just not like them." "Like whom?" I asked. "Didn't you meet Amber Mitchell that night?" I nodded. "Well, it was the same night that she had her infamous group encounter with 4 or 5 guys. So I'm just wondering what kind of group activity it was and what it's like. I have so many questions that I would love to ask you. I mean, I'm sure the woman is doing very well, and it seems like it's Amber's signature anyway, to be the center of attention. One guy probably isn't enough for her anyway, but from the guy's point of view, you were just trying to have fun at any cost. Didn't it seem strange to you that your equipment was so close to so many other guys? I've often wondered if guys who do these things are a little, what about the girls? She must be the biggest attention seeker imaginable. Either that or she is so insensitive that she needs to reach an extreme level of stimulation to even feel anything. It's really pathetic how much attention some people need. You're just not like them. What would Jennifer think?" She looked at me as if she really expected an answer. Before I could say anything, her expression changed. She suddenly turned pale, began to pack her things, and hurried away, leaving her notebook behind. I was wondering why she left so quickly, and then I heard the click of expensive heels. Amber sat down opposite me. I quickly collected my things and also got ready to leave. "I can't believe that woman had the nerve to talk to my boyfriend in the public library where everyone could see her," Amber said. "I hope she enjoys the choice she left herself." "What are you talking about, Amber?" I asked. "Well, now she's limited herself to one of 2 L's. She can choose loneliness or lesbianism, because no guy on this campus will date her. I declare that I simply would not date any guy who had dated any girl who tried to date you. So she will have to either satisfy herself in her room or have intimate relations with girls. It will do her good, Marcus. Everyone knows that you are mine." I got up from the table and left. The next morning, I came to history class very early. Professor Martin moved a few students around, and we sat down for the lecture. I was sure he had changed the seating arrangement because he suspected several people of cheating. One of them was the guy who usually sat behind me. The seat behind me was now empty, and the girl who was sitting next to me had been replaced by a guy from India. About 20 minutes into the lecture, the door opened, and Amber walked into the room. She didn't even have any damn books or notebooks. She just came in and sat behind me. The professor didn't say a word. He paused for a second and then simply continued lecturing. He was usually a stickler for classroom rules and protocols. There was no talking aloud in his class unless it was part of a group discussion or assignment. Somehow, Amber was blowing on my neck and putting her fingers on my shoulder, even though I was sitting in the front row right in front of him. Amber left the class about 10 minutes before it ended, and again the professor didn't bat an eye. I collected my books and walked out with the other students as soon as he dismissed us, wondering what was going on. I should have known she would be waiting outside for me. "Hey, Marcus, How about lunch? She asked. Haven't you already attended this class? I asked. Yes, Jennifer did my homework. I still have her notes if you need them. I got an A, she said. Pure curiosity made me ask her, how did you pass the tests? I just returned them empty, she said. Professor Martin will do whatever I ask, and all I have to do is smile at him. Marcus, you have to come to terms with this. You won't be able to leave me unless you change schools, and we're too far into the semester for that to be practical. I know our first date didn't go very well, but I'd like to have a chance to explain a few things to you. Let me come to your dorm tonight and we can talk. After this, if you want, I will not come to your history lesson or any of your classes unless you want me to. So if I listen to you tonight, you promise you'll leave me alone? I asked. Marcus, I never said that. I just said I won't come to any of your classes. She smiled. I will never leave you alone. That evening, Amber came over, and we went out and bought pizza and brought it to my dorm. Every guy in my building was excited when we headed to my room. I watched Amber and noticed that she liked the attention. Her hips seemed to sway a little more. She bent down a little lower and revealed a little more cleavage in response to the gazes. It was like a performance. When we were alone in my room, it seemed much more peaceful. I began to wonder which one was the real Amber. Marcus, all I want is for you to give us a try. If things don't work out, I'll leave you alone, she said. Amber, every guy we come across would give their left arm to try with you. I'm not big or athletic. I'm not rich or handsome. Why can't you just find someone else? I asked. I can, she said. But I want you, Marcus. Since the first time I saw you, I wanted you. Even when you were dating Jennifer, I wanted you. And now that Jennifer is gone, it's time for us. Can I think about it for a couple of days? I asked. If you waited so long, then a couple of days won't change anything, right? The next day, I was talking with my friend Andrew, who was preparing to graduate with a degree in psychology. This girl is crazy, Marcus, Andrew told me, speaking purely as a future mental health professional. She's missing a few screws. The only thing you have is time. Just play along with her. Do whatever she wants. In a couple of weeks, she will get tired of you and she will leave you. This is her pattern. She only stays with a guy for a week or two, then she moves on to the next one. Use this to your advantage. Get all the benefits you can, because everyone here either wants to be intimate with her or wants to be intimate with her again. Even women want to be on good terms with her, he said. But how do you know all this? I asked, thinking he was going to say that she was some particular example he was researching or that she was the ideal archetype of a narcissist. I was intimate with her, he said. I only lasted a day before she left me for some football player, but it was a great day. She's incredible. Enjoy it while you can. But why can't she just cross me off the list and move on? I asked. Because, he said sharply, you are the one who escaped. You were Moby Dick. It's like if Amber was a rare car collector and she had every type of Mustang except the Shelby, and you were the Shelby. You're the only guy on campus who's ever said no to her. Remember how she showed you her body and you just turned away and went back to studying with your friend Jennifer? Then she called you and asked you to come fix her computer. And not only do you refuse, but you start dating Jennifer. Then you started having intimate relations with Jennifer in Amber's dorm. She should add you to her collection, but once she gets you, you'll be just like all the other guys. And since we're already talking about the Shelby Mustang, you'll be gone in 60 seconds. Believe me, the sooner you give up, the sooner it will all be over. That's how I started dating Amber. Within one day, the news spread throughout the entire campus. Girls who had never looked twice at me were now looking at me, trying to figure out why Amber wanted me. Guys tried to be my friend or looked at me like they knew they were stronger, faster, or just better than me. And Amber completely changed almost overnight. She literally became the perfect girlfriend. She constantly came to me, brought food, and cleaned my room. When we went for a walk, Not a single guy came closer than 10 feet to us. She always waited until I was ready before she started kissing me. The first time we were intimate was strange for me. Amber wasn't very good in bed. She wasn't nearly as good as Jennifer. Amber had come to terms with the fact that she truly had an incredible body, and every guy she encountered wanted to take advantage of it. Our first encounter found me slightly disappointed that the campus goddess was just lying there like a beautiful statue. However, the second time, I used a few techniques I had learned. I didn't realize at the time that Amber had probably been intimate with 50 or 60 guys, but this was her first real experience of satisfaction that wasn't self-induced. I didn't realize it either, but I was working against myself. Remember, my goal was just to play along with her until she dumped me and I could go back to my normal routine. For the first few weeks, I pretended that I really wanted to be with her, but I didn't get too intimate with her. I did all kinds of things for her. I bought her cards and constantly surprised her with all sorts of little things. At first, I did it because that's who I was. She saw that I did this for Jennifer, and I needed her to think that I had the same feelings for her that I had for Jennifer. The problem was that no one had ever treated her this way before. All the athletes and rich guys she usually dated wanted to be with her because of her looks, reputation, or athletic skills. Once they started dating her, their egos usually took over, and they treated her like property or a trophy. Amber started to really like the way I treated her. Before we were intimate, as soon as we started having intimate relations, she was hooked. Although I didn't know it, I had a better chance of becoming an opera singer than getting rid of Amber. First, I started telling guys when Amber and I would be dating so they could come and I could leave like the first time. I was sure that Amber was still playing with me, and I encouraged it, although not openly. If Amber said she was going on a date with a group of her girlfriends, I was fine with it. I just told her to have a good time and hoped that one of her friends would find her a guy and would get her away from me. However, after a few days, I noticed that her trips with her girlfriends began to subside. Then, when she returned from a trip with her girlfriends, she still came to me to have intimate relations. Eventually, the visits with her girlfriends simply stopped. Amber practically moved in with me, and a bunch of guys, including Derek, looked like they wanted to hurt me. Finally, I turned to Andrew for help again. Marcus, more than a month has passed, and she still hasn't left me. What the hell is going on? I asked. You're clueless, he laughed. You really need to understand that college is more than just studying and going to classes. You really don't know, do you? What don't I know? I asked again. Amber is really in love with you. She walks around the school and tells everyone that she loves you and you belong to her forever. Didn't she tell you about this? Well, yes, I said, puzzled. But doesn't everyone say that about the person they're with? Dude, Amber never said anything like that about anyone. I told you she's kind of sick, but she even stopped having intimate relations with other guys. That's why there are at least 5 guys that I know of who want to hurt you for taking her from them, he said. I really don't see your problem here. The most stunningly beautiful woman we've ever seen is crazy about you. Everyone would love to have such problems. He saw that I was still confused and shook his head. What's the worst thing that could happen to you? In a few weeks, she will come to her senses and leave you. You wanted this from the very beginning, didn't you? But for now, you can enjoy the feeling of having the prettiest woman you know at your fingertips. And that's how it went throughout the last year of college. We were inseparable. Amber still flirted with some of her professors to get grades, but other than a little touching and teasing, she never cheated on me. She even warned me about the teachers she teased, so I wouldn't get the wrong idea. 5 months before we graduated from college, or before I graduated, because Amber still didn't know what she wanted to do, she started talking about our life together after graduation. She started slowly and gradually increased the pace. I think we need to start looking for an apartment before summer starts, she said. We don't want to compete with all the other people who are finishing school and having to look for housing and work at the same time. We'll end up paying more for less housing than if we decide now. I didn't say anything at first because I was still in control of my feelings for her. I couldn't afford to get too carried away with her because I still expected her to leave me at any moment. Then we had our first argument. Amber wanted to come home with me and meet my parents, but I called it off. I just told her straight up that I didn't think it was a good idea. She burst into tears and, for the first time in several weeks, left the dorm. Her roommate had her boyfriend staying with her because Amber hadn't been around for so long. All the guys who hated me before were now smiling at me. But on the other hand, everyone else was talking about what an idiot I was. I was sure that Amber would start cheating on me and we would break up. Surprisingly, she didn't. She skipped classes and stayed in the dorm crying. Even more surprising was the fact that I couldn't sleep either. Damn, I missed her. Eventually, I had to admit that I had feelings for her too. Love can be damn tricky sometimes. The next day, I was leaving the biomedical engineering building after a lecture, and then she appeared. She had dark circles under her eyes and just looked miserable. When she saw me, she ran away from me as fast as she could. I ran after her and grabbed her hand. Amber, you don't have classes in this building. Why are you here? I asked her softly. I just thought that if I looked at you one more time, it would make me feel better, she cried. Forgive me. I won't do it again. I wrapped my arms around her and squeezed her as hard as I could. I even grabbed 2 big handfuls of her hair and pulled her toward me. She kissed me, pressing herself even more into me. Damn, someone shouted behind us. I looked around and noticed that everyone near us was looking at us. Anytime, anywhere, I'm yours, she said. Needless to say, my parents loved her, especially my father. Of course, it took Mom longer to come to her senses, but eventually, she too fell under Amber's spell. We got married before I finished school. We went through the same normal adjustment period that most young couples go through. Of course, there were a few differences. Normal couples don't have a problem with people staring open-mouthed at their wife when they go to the cinema or a restaurant, but we dealt with it. I found a great job almost immediately after graduating from university, and Amber, after several years of staying at home, got a job as a customer service representative at a department store chain. She was great at it. When an irritated customer came to her, they would usually take one look at her and forget about why the service or product bothered them in the first place. About 4 years into our marriage, we started trying to get pregnant. Our intimate life had always been intense, but we started having relations with a purpose. But nothing seemed to work. Eventually, we started seeing different doctors and learned that Amber would never be able to have children. The news did something to her, and she seemed to change overnight. She began to dress much more revealingly. It was almost like my student years. She seemed to be going out of her way to get attention again. When I asked her about this, she avoided answering and started crying. I knew it was some sort of emotional breakdown caused by the discovery of her infertility, but I didn't really know how to help her. I turned to a therapist for advice on how to deal with this. He told me that, as I suspected, this was probably just Amber's way of trying to feel more attractive and that she could still turn men on. This is because a woman's role and part of her intimate identity is that childbearing is a core part of a woman's biological function. Amber, finding that she could not perform this function, felt somehow inferior to other women, so she needed to prove that she was at least as attractive in appearance to somehow compensate for her biological inability. It didn't make any sense to me, but I didn't want to say anything to her about it because by that time I loved her so much that I was ready to do anything for her. Then came the moment that I initially hoped for but then began to fear. About a year after I found out she couldn't have children, I caught Amber with some guy she knew in college. They were having intimate relations in our living room when I walked into the house. In typical cliché fashion, I came home early and found them. I watched for a minute or two and was puzzled. Amber just lay there while some guy was with her. He had the biggest smile on his face, but she could have been watching a rerun of an old TV show. "Oh baby," he said, "I'm going to finish. Do you want me to pull out?" "It doesn't matter," she answered weakly. Just hurry up, okay? Oh yes, that matters, he said. Your little husband won't be too happy if I get you pregnant. Get away from me, Amber screamed. Marcus is a much bigger man than you will ever be. I don't know why I'm even doing this with you. You can't even satisfy me. Get out of my house and never come back. Then she just started crying while he gathered his clothes and ran out of the house. He couldn't get his truck out of the driveway without hitting my car, so he drove through my grass and left ruts in it. But the lawn was the least of my problems. I sat down next to her, and she looked up at me, tears still streaming down her cheeks. Oh no, she screamed when she realized that I had been there for a long time. I'll just pack a few things and won't disturb you, I said. I was probably in a lot more pain than I expected. I never thought I would ever truly love her, but I did. I always thought that I was only holding on to her because I had no other option. I mean, who else but her could truly want me? She was much more beautiful than any other woman I had been intimate with, and she seemed to genuinely care about me. But it's time to leave and end this farce once and for all. I left and spent the night in a cheap motel that I still don't remember. I only remember that there were walls and a small bed, and the night cost me $49.95. The next day, Amber was waiting for me near my work. She was wearing jeans and a sweatshirt and was trying to be as unattractive as possible, but it wasn't working. This woman could look beautiful in a potato sack. She had huge circles under her eyes and was still crying. Everyone in the building looked at me like I was heartless when I walked past her and refused to talk to her. My boss told me to take the day off, go home, and get things sorted out because Amber sitting in the parking lot crying was bad for business. Actually, I think he just wanted to help her. This was another case where her magical appeal influenced some weak guy. I finally agreed to go home and listen to her side of the story before heading back to my motel. As soon as I got there, she started by taking off all her clothes and approaching me. Whoa, Amber, we're here to talk, not have intimate relations. So say what you want to say. I snapped. I love you, Marcus. You're the only one who wants me. You are the only one who truly loves me. Every other man I've ever met doesn't want to know me or care about me. All they want is a chance to get to my body. And once they do, most of them become so scared that they cannot carry out their plans. The few who can act only think about just getting it over with like I'm just an object with a hole. They don't think for a second about whether I'm enjoying it. Then they need to tell everyone that they conquered me. That's part of why I was so drawn to you when I first came home and saw you with Jennifer. You looked at me and then just turned to her like you barely even noticed me. I undressed in front of you, pretending I didn't know you were there. But I knew you were there. In fact, I was so turned on by the fact that you didn't react to me like other guys that I would have approached you right there in front of Jennifer. I called you a couple of days later to ask you to fix my laptop. I didn't even have a laptop. I was planning on borrowing one, but I ended up not needing it because you said no. No one had ever told me no before. Then you and Jennifer started dating, and I started getting jealous. When I first heard you having intimate relations with her and her responding to you, I started to hate my roommate. Amber bit her lip as if deciding what to say next. Later, I found out what she was hiding. At that time, I couldn't believe it, Amber told me. I was the prettiest girl in school, and I was jealous of some simple girl from the dorm. All the big guys on campus were following me around. They were willing to do anything I said just to get the chance to be with me, and I was pining for some nerd. So after Jennifer's accident, I went after you. Took me a while because you were so damn stubborn, but in the end I succeeded. And then I got you into bed, and it was better than I ever could have imagined. Even today, I find myself craving what you do to me. Then, when you stopped wearing those thick glasses and let me dress you, I started to realize that you weren't bad looking at all, and I just fell in love with you, Marcus. Indeed, there is no other man with whom I would like to be together, and certainly no one I would love except you. But when I found out I couldn't have children, I started to feel empty. It's like there's emptiness inside me. I analyze my life and realize that, besides you, I have nothing. In the old days, I could lift my little finger and 20 guys would fight for the honor of doing something for me. But you were never someone I could control, and I began to doubt whether I could ever find another man. I doubted it because if I can't have children, why would any man need me? I am a biological dead end. I will never get pregnant. I literally have no purpose as a woman. I'm just a toy and nothing more. But then, when that idiot started talking about you, I realized that no matter what, I love you and you love me. So maybe this is my purpose. Maybe my purpose is to make you happy. It was a great speech and I thought about it for a long time. That night, I spent the night at home but slept in the guest room. It was several weeks before we were able to return to any intimacy, and it took months before I could say I loved her or even begin to feel it. But the balance of power in our relationship had changed. Even more, and now a few years later, all the stars lined up again. Amber ran into Derek Bradley, the quarterback from our old college football team. Life was not kind to Derek. He was married to a short, heavy woman with a mustache. She became pregnant by him, and he had no choice since her father was the chief of police. At first, Amber was shocked by his appearance. Derek was overweight, out of shape, and balding. At first, Derek had to manipulate her into getting involved with him, but once he succeeded, even though the intimate relations weren't good for Amber, she enjoyed having control over him more than anything else. During the first few months of their affair, I started to suspect something again, but without proof, I didn't know what to do. Amber started to pull away, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I knew it had something to do with Amber's feelings of inadequacy again, and I didn't want to push her into it. Since she was my wife, I believed it was at least partly my fault. At the same time, I was evaluating my life. The years had been kind to me. I realized that I looked decent and could, if I wanted, find someone else for myself. So I decided to make myself even more attractive in hopes of getting my Amber back. Instead of just sitting there and watching some stronger guy take my toys, I was going to fight back. I bought myself new clothes and got a new haircut. I started going to the gym and taking self-defense lessons. I even bought something I had dreamed of all my life. I bought a used 2015 Dodge Challenger R/T. From the first day I bought the car, I knew something had changed. The strangest thing happened at the car dealership. The salesman couldn't find the keys to allow me to test drive the car. He tried to open the door, but it was locked. All I did was try the door handle and it opened immediately. He said he would go to his office and find the keys so I could drive. When he returned, I told him that I would take it even though I didn't drive the car. I know it sounds stupid, but somehow I knew that this car and I were made for each other. He was also very happy. Challengers don't stay parked for long. He couldn't sell this one because stone gray paint isn't to everyone's taste, and there had been some minor electrical issues that were supposedly resolved. The first day I drove this car home, I found out that Amber was having intimate relations with Derek. I saw him slip away as I pulled into my driveway. Amber tried to pretend nothing was happening, but I knew, and I knew that she knew that I knew. A couple of weeks later, things got even weirder. I came home from work early and parked my Challenger in the garage. When I walked into the house, Derek was sitting in my living room on my couch. "Hi, Marcus," he said. "We need to talk." "Who are you?" I asked. "Well, except probably that you are the guy Amber has been intimate with, and why should I talk to you? You will not recognize me?" He asked in confusion. "I'm Derek from school. I was a quarterback. You stole Amber from me." "Oh yes, and what happened to you?" I asked. "Well, I wasn't good enough to become a professional and I got a girl pregnant. In any case, none of this matters. What's important is that I will have intimate relations with Amber whenever I want, and you won't be able to say or do anything about it." He stood up, leaned toward me and said, "Otherwise," like I should have been scared. The moment the word "otherwise" came out of his mouth, I remembered what my self-defense instructor had told me. Land the decisive blow first, and the battle will be much easier. I hit Derek in the groin with such force that I brought him to his knees. Then, while he was doubled over, losing his balance, I pushed him in the chest and knocked him down. As he lay on his back, I put my knee on his throat and looked down at him. I saw fear in his eyes. Listen, Derek, or whatever your name is, I don't care. You can take Amber out of here right now. I won't lift a finger to stop you. Moreover, I will help her get ready. You're not the first person she's cheated on me with. I'm done with her. She's yours. Take her. She won't come with me, and I already have a wife, he whined. She loves you and will not leave you. I had to manipulate her to get her to be with me. He was still holding his groin when I let him stand up. Out of my house, Derek, I snapped. I'll be back, he shouted, still holding his injury. You better call me or we're both going to jail for a long time. I hate my life, so I don't mind going to jail to get away from the woman I married. But I don't think being locked up will do your beautiful wife any good. As soon as he was outside the door, his courage returned. Next time, I'll hurt you, he grinned, limping to his car from the pain. A few minutes later, I walked out to my garage and was installing a rear diffuser on my new Challenger, R/T, when Amber pulled up and walked into the garage. Where's Derek? She asked uncertainly. I dealt with him and sent him home, I said without looking up from the car. Amber, I'm not going through this again. Pack your things and leave. You can live with Derek, his wife and child, but I'm not going to put up with this. Didn't he explain everything to you? She asked, already crying. It's not like last time. I'm not doing this out of curiosity or frustration, Marcus. I know you love me, and believe it or not, I love you and only you, but I have no choice. My back is pressed against the wall, so until I find a way out, I'll just have to deal with it. Amber, what kind of power does Derek have over you that you're willing to give up our marriage for him? Now I was really curious. Amber looked at the ground and couldn't meet my gaze. What exactly are you doing with the car? She asked. Can I sit in it? Maybe we could go for a drive. I had almost forgotten that she was trying to change the subject when she put her hand on the door handle. I heard a click, but I must have accidentally pressed the lock button on my key fob. Amber, what is Derek holding over your head? He said that if this gets out, you will both get jail time. He doesn't mind going to jail. He claims that he hates his wife and wants to leave her. What could be so bad? Did you sell drugs in college or something? It was so long ago that no one cares about it now. Marcus, she said quietly, if I thought that you would wait for me, I would go to jail too. But the thing is, I'm more worried about you finding out than about me getting locked up. Amber, if you can't tell me, then I don't think our marriage can survive. I'll file for divorce as soon as I find a lawyer. You can take the house and your car. I'll take my car and find a new place to live. I think you and Derek can use our house as your love nest away from his wife. She ran into the house and slammed the door. I heard her screaming and crying from the garage. I decided to take my car for a drive to figure out what to do. I really loved her. Then I noticed that I had left the keys in the ignition from when I was working on the electrical system earlier. I got up to get them, but when I tried the door, it opened easily. I must have forgotten to lock it back up. What was strange was that when I jostled the ignition switch, the engine turned over briefly. I remembered that this model year had some electrical issues that the dealer had supposedly fixed, but apparently there were still some quirks. I got into the car and reversed out of the garage. Amber ran out of the house. Please don't leave me, she cried. I pressed the lock button on my key fob as she approached the car. I started to think that maybe the car had some kind of automatic security system, but I couldn't remember that feature being mentioned when I bought it. Marcus, please give me a couple of days to figure this out. I just need to explain all this to you somehow, she said. I rolled down the window and looked at her. She truly was beautiful. and I truly loved her with all my heart. You have 2 days, Amber? I said coldly. For 2 days, everything is on standby. You don't have intimate relations or have any contact with Derek. You will sleep in the guest room. I don't hire a lawyer after that. If we don't talk, I'll assume that you just can't give up Derek or that you're keeping a secret from me that you're willing to share with Derek, which means you and him should be married and I should be free. Where are you going now? She asked. Just for a drive. I said. Can I go? She asked quietly. Before I could say anything, I accidentally hit the window control and it began to close. The engine roared to life when I turned the key, and the car began to back down the driveway. I tried to explain to her that I wasn't intentionally shutting her out, but she turned away and walked back into the house, looking like her life was about to end. I hate this, I said loudly to no one as I drove along the deserted roads. I gave her a wonderful life, everything she ever asked for. I love her with all my heart and soul. How did she repay me? She cheats on me every chance she gets. Maybe she's just not the kind of woman who can be faithful, at least not to me. But she's so beautiful it just breaks my heart every time she does that. But this time it's just amazing. Does she really think I'm going to believe this about Derek manipulating her? I think they're together, and she just wants to be able to have intimate relations with Derek without having to lie about it. She just wants to rub my face in it because she knows she can't control me. I guess. I thought I was only talking to myself and no one was listening to me. I often spoke my thoughts out loud to relieve stress and not get tense in bad situations. If I knew then what I know now, I would never have done this. After 2 days, Amber came to me and said that she wanted the 3 of us to sit down and discuss the problem like adults. She suggested a possible solution. Her solution included 2 steps. If I was ready, the first step involved meeting with Derek and trying to figure out if we could pay Derek some money to just go away. If he doesn't accept the money, would I be ready to just pack my things and leave with her? The second thing was she wanted us to go to marriage counseling because she really loves me with all her heart and doesn't want to lose me for anything. Maybe through counseling, she can figure out what's wrong with her and why she keeps getting into these situations. She seemed so sincere, and she had been so miserable the last 2 days, so I agreed. A little later, Derek appeared. When he appeared, I just felt a sinking feeling in my stomach. He didn't move tentatively as if he was afraid I'd hurt him again. He grinned as if he had already won. Amber started the conversation. Derek, you don't make very much money from your job. Instead of having intimate relations with me, could we pay you some money? We could spend $10,000 or $15,000 to keep it a secret. Are you crazy? Or do you think I am? He grinned. What would I do with the money? My wife would find it and force me to spend it on things for her and the baby. I couldn't keep it in a bank because she would find out, and then how would I explain it? I already told you what I want. You used to like it too, until you started having intimate relations with that weakling and let him take you away from me. So now you're mine again. I'll have you as often as I want, unless your hubby wants to see some 300-pound prisoner turn you into something against your will. She said she doesn't want you, Derek, I muttered. That's even better, he snapped back. Throughout college, until you got your hands on her, I had to share her with half the team. She was in control when we had intimate relations, and it was always up to her. She loved power and control more than anything else. I once saw her with 5 guys, and she still didn't seem satisfied. Just think, 5 guys, and all she wanted to do was go home, take a shower, and find out why some nerd dumped her at the movies. As the conversation continued, I became more and more angry. So maybe you need to know what's going on here. If we go to jail, you'll never see her again. I'll most likely end up with a life sentence. Murder is still a capital offense, and there is no statute of limitations. Amber turned pale when he mentioned murder. Okay, I'll give you the opportunity to tell him, she said. No, you won't. I'll kill him first, I said seriously. Your little wife obviously didn't tell you about this, did she? He asked. Okay. Then it's my job. He seemed to really enjoy himself. Maybe he just liked ruining other people's lives because his life had been so terrible ever since he dropped out of college. Please don't, Amber pleaded. She looked so pathetic that my heart simply broke with pity for her. Whatever it is, we can handle it, I told her. When we were in college, Amber could always use her appeal, and every guy on campus would do whatever she wanted, he began. She also manipulated women through men because all she had to do was find out which guy the girl was interested in and go after him. None of the girls wanted to try to compete with her. Everything Amber wanted, Amber got, until you came along. For some reason I could never understand. She was crazy about you. She told me a year before we left school that she was going to marry you. Only two things stood in the way. The first is that you didn't even look at her. I couldn't understand why. I thought maybe you were gay. Why didn't you like her? He asked. It's not that I didn't like her, I said. I just never thought that a girl like her would give me a chance to even talk to her, let alone date me. So I targeted girls who I thought would actually give me a chance. There's no point in pursuing something that you have no chance of getting. The second thing standing between you two was Amber's little roommate. I can't even remember the name of this girl, but Amber actually asked her to give you up. Amber wanted her to leave you. She even offered her dates with any guy on campus she named. But that little nobody said you meant more to her than anything Amber could offer. Then he smiled like a shark and looked at me. So Amber convinced one of the professors to lend her his car. She gave me the keys and promised to have intimate relations with me every night for 2 weeks. I was just going to hit her hard enough to break her leg or something, so she had to go home. But I really couldn't control this car. As you remember, she ended up getting very badly hurt. She was taken home, but 6 months later she died without ever waking up from her coma. I'm not proud of what I did. I was so messed up on steroids back then that I made a lot of bad decisions. With too much testosterone in my body, I was angry and ready to fight 1 second and desperate for a woman the next, so I was really out of control. I'm sure the judge will take this into account when he sentences me, but poor Amber was the inspiration. She was not under any influence. She was just a jealous woman who wanted other people's toys and couldn't stand the thought of anyone telling her no. I looked at the two of them, Derek grinning and Amber with her tear-stained face in her hands, and I knew he was telling the truth. All my pain and anguish, all my love for Jennifer, came back in that moment. She was actually taken from me just when things were starting to look up. I looked back and, in an instant, saw the life I could have lived with Jennifer, seeing all the love and loyalty of a woman who truly loved me in a way that Amber, with all her problems, may never be able to. I was really angry, but then Derek put the other shoe down. Did she tell you the worst? He grinned. I mean, admit it, you're a nice guy. Did old Amber ever tell you why her roommate's parents treated you like dirt and refused to see you or let you see her? I looked at Amber, and all I could see was her crying and shaking her head. They found out that night in the hospital that Jennifer. Yes, that was her name. Jennifer was pregnant with your child, dude. So not only have you lost your girlfriend, but also your only chance to have children. That's why old Amber went crazy when she found out she couldn't have children. Partly because she feels worthless, and partly because of what she took from you and can never replace. I couldn't stand it anymore. I needed to go away to think. I'm leaving to work on my car, I snapped. You need to figure out what you want to do. Weakling, he snapped. Amber couldn't stop crying. I couldn't bring myself to look at them. Okay, I said. I'm going to the police. Let them sort it out. No, Amber screamed. Marcus, please let Derek and I talk about this. We can work it out. I went out to the garage. I was thinking about putting in a rear spoiler because it was supposed to be a very easy install. I think we were louder than we thought because, as soon as the garage door opened, my neighbor Daniel poked his head into the garage. The car looks good, he said. Why don't you do mine too? he laughed. Daniel had been filming me working on the car. I don't know why, but some guys take a video camera and just go crazy with it. The door to the house opened, and Derek came out. "Yeah, the car looks good, weakling," he said. "When can I drive it?" "We're not quite finished inside," he continued. "Your little wife would like it if you came back to the house so we can finish everything. Maybe there will be a way to work things out in the end," he said. "Look at my car all you want, Derek. I'm going to the police. They'll figure it out," I said. Derek reached into his pocket and pulled out a gun. He pointed it at me and told Daniel to close the garage door. "I tried to be polite to you," he chuckled, "but I brought this in case you want to try your damn self-defense moves again. How are these classes going? Is it you and a bunch of 10 and 12-year-olds kicking boards in their little uniforms? Aren't you ashamed? Do you really enjoy this? You tell me that, Derek. How did you feel when you left here last time? It must have been a few days before you could walk straight." I laughed. Derek got angry just as I had hoped. I was hoping he'd head toward me so I'd have a better chance of getting to him without getting shot. The closer we were to each other, the less advantage his pistol had. However, neither Daniel nor I were prepared for what happened. As he moved toward us, Derek was gesturing wildly with the gun. He stepped backward, not watching where he was going, and tripped over the hydraulic jack I had been using to work on the car. The heavy jack handle caught him in the back of the legs, and he went down hard, hitting his head on the concrete floor of the garage. It happened so quickly that he didn't even have time to scream. Derek made a horrible sound as he hit the ground. He was knocked unconscious, and both of his legs were badly injured from the fall. "Holy hell," Daniel said. "That was close. Is he okay?" "I don't know," I told him, but at least he dropped the gun. I went into the house and called the police and an ambulance. While I was inside, I heard Amber crying quietly from the bedroom. I guess I should have gone and told her that Derek wouldn't bother her anymore, but I didn't. The police and ambulance arrived shortly thereafter. When they arrived, Derek was still unconscious but alive. The paramedics worked on stabilizing him before transporting him to the hospital. The detectives questioned Daniel and me separately, and our stories matched. They also found the gun and discovered that only Derek had touched it. The good thing was that Daniel had been able to film almost everything that happened on his video camera, including Derek threatening us with a gun and the accident that caused him to fall. Derek survived, though with permanent damage to his legs and a serious head injury. He was arrested for attempted murder and assault with a deadly weapon. During his hospital stay, facing serious charges, he eventually confessed to Jennifer's death as part of a plea deal to avoid the death penalty. Amber was arrested as an accessory to Jennifer's murder. The case made headlines: a beautiful woman, a college conspiracy, all of it. She received 15 years as part of a plea agreement. Derek got life without parole. During the trial, more details came out. Amber had been manipulating people for years, destroying relationships and reputations. Jennifer wasn't her first victim, just the most serious one. Other women testified about how Amber had ruined their lives through her manipulations. The hardest part was learning about Jennifer's pregnancy. She had been planning to tell me that weekend. Her parents finally spoke to me during the trial. They had been so devastated by their daughter's death that they couldn't handle meeting the father of their grandchild they would never know. After it was all over, I thought about selling the car, but somehow couldn't. I know it sounds sentimental, but I felt like owning this car had given me the confidence to stand up to Derek, to fight back instead of just accepting what was happening. The car represented a turning point in my life, the moment I decided to stop being a victim. So I kept her, named her Isabella, just because I liked the name. Nothing supernatural about it. Just a guy who loves his car and talks to it sometimes, like a lot of car enthusiasts do. That's why I was nervous about you driving her. She's been through a lot with me, and I guess I'm protective of her. Plus, with the electrical quirks this model year is known for, I'm always a little worried about how she'll behave with other drivers. Rebecca was quiet for a long moment after I finished the story. And tonight, when we almost hit that truck, you're an excellent driver. You saved us with your quick thinking and defensive driving skills. My reflexes felt sharper than usual, she said. Maybe it was just the adrenaline. I nodded. Emergency situations can bring out abilities we didn't know we had. Rebecca moved closer to me on the couch. Marcus, that's an incredible story. I'm so sorry about Jennifer and what Amber put you through. Thank you. Jennifer sounds like she was a wonderful person who loved you. Amber took that away from you, took away your chance to be a father. That was unforgivable. Derek was a monster who destroyed an innocent woman's life. I'm glad they both faced justice. She paused, then smiled slightly. And I think it's endearing that you named your car Isabella and talk to her sometimes. A lot of car people do that. It shows how much you care about the things that matter to you. It does, I agreed, pulling her closer. So what happens now? She asked. Now we see where this goes. Both of us. Rebecca laughed softly. I never thought I'd be in a relationship with a man who talks to his car. But everyone has their quirks. You're okay with all this? Really? Marcus, everyone has baggage from their past. Some people have crazy ex-wives. You have a tragic history and a car you're very attached to. I can work with that. She kissed me again, deeper this time. Besides, any car that has such a considerate and protective owner can't be all bad. Come on, I said, standing and taking her hand. Let's go to bed. Tomorrow is a new day. Good plan, she agreed. As we headed to the bedroom, I called out softly, Good night, Isabella. Thanks for running well tonight and getting us home safely. The house was quiet and peaceful. For the first time in years, I felt like I could truly move forward. I had found love again, and Rebecca seemed to understand and accept my past. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever healing still needed to happen, I was ready. Sometimes the best way forward isn't forgetting the past, but learning to carry it with grace. Thank you for your viewing. See you next time. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to JK Tells a Story for more tales.